Buddy, welcome to another episode of the Artisans of Steel podcast. This is where I talk with some of the most talented knife makers in the world. I'm very thankful to have our guest today, especially since he's so far away. Thank goodness for the internet. But before we get started, I'm going to get in here and talk about our sponsors, our super sponsors over on the Patreon. So, the Patreon is where this conversation happens live. And you can be part of the conversation if you are in the Patreon at the illuminated individual level or higher. You catch it live. You get to ask questions of our esteemed guests and be part of the conversation. You also get to be part of the live chat that's happening at the same time. And it's a unique opportunity to be able to talk to these people firsthand, because you don't really get that option and that opportunity very often. So, without further ado, our sponsors this month, excuse me, are first off, we have Mr. Josh A. Weston. Josh A. Weston on Instagram. He's also part of Dragon Forge Experience. That's at Dragon Forge EXP. You can go actually, I think they're down at the Arizona, the Phoenix. What is it called? The Phoenix Renaissance Festival. And they've been down there forging with people, doing forging lessons. And if you have a chance to go check them out, go check him out. He's a great guy. The setup they have is super cool. They've fabricated these forges that look like dragons. They have at least 3 of them that I'm aware of that they have set up. The guys that are teaching the lessons and doing the forging classes are former Forged and Fire competitors. They're all good dudes. So go check them out. It's really cool. It looks like they're having a really fun time. And those forges, I love those forges. I want to get one of those forges or make one of my own. Next up, we have Mr. Gabe Fletcher of Anchorage Brewing, also who is the owner of Anchorage Brewing, but is also a budding knife maker. He's Anchorage Forge on Instagram. He's a great guy, super talented. He comes from a background of doing all kinds of different work, and it parlays quite nicely into knife making. He's picked up knife making skills, techniques pretty quickly. I've gone and worked with him once before. I'm getting ready to go work with him again in what is that? March, April, and I'm looking forward to it because it's always a good time. He's got a great shop, and I think we're gonna have some fun. So go check out Gabe over on either his Anchorage Brewing or Anchorage Forge Instagram page. Next up is Maritime Knife Supply. You can find him on Instagram. He is Lawrence Lake is the owner, and it is at Maritime Knife Supply on Instagram, as well as maritimeknifesupply.com. Excuse me. They really are the supplier of knife making, whatever you need, from anvils to grinders to hammers and presses. I believe they have carbide file guides. They have the Kamimura Banky file guides. They have they're the Canadian distributor of Broadbeck grinders. They have handle materials, powdered steels. They have all the stuff you need. They just got a load of steel in right now, actually, that looks really awesome. A lot of really good stuff in there, including the new Magnet Cut. They got some Magnet Cut materials. So go over to Maritime Knife Supply, get in there, get what you need. Lawrence is doing a great job trying to get materials and supplies to people at as reasonable of a price as possible, because he's a maker too. He's learning, and he's doing the work, and he doesn't want to nickel and dime people over silly stuff. He wants to help create a service for makers because it's hard enough as it is. So thank you, Lawrence. Go check out Maritime Knife Supply. All right, next up is Mr. Russell Tinsley of Ouzel Finch Beers. If you don't have Ouzel Finch beers available at your local beer market, go check them out, or tell the local beer market buyer to go buy some and get some into the store, because the beers are way outside the box, but also super delicious. All kinds of freaky flavors. I think the most recent freaky flavor I had was it was peanut butter and something. I can't remember. But I never thought that I would be interested in drinking peanut butter beer. It was delicious. I actually had more than one. So yeah, what they're doing at Ouzel Finch is really cool and creative. So go check out Russell's beer company, Ouzel Finch. He's also Can't Make Knives on Instagram. His handle is at Can't Make Knives. So go check him out and give him a follow and try to get yourself some of those beers. All right, next up we have Mr. Michael Poor of Red Dragon Forge. Good dude. I'm excited to have him down to my shop. Hopefully soon. I'm going to be getting the hammer in, little 68 pound Anyang in the next, I think, the next few weeks, couple weeks. I get it in, get it situated, and hopefully it's going to be a plug and play kind of situation. And then get the shop cleaned up a little bit, and then get some people over. And Michael Poor is going to be one of those guys because he's not far from me. He's only a couple hours north of me. He's very creative, talented maker, doing a lot of work, especially in like a traditional Japanese style. He's done a lot of work with the bells down in Oregon, and he's a good dude and he's a good cook. I'm really excited to have him down to do some cooking and hanging out as well. So go check out Michael Poor. Again, he's Red Dragon Forge on Instagram. And next we have Mr. Brian Henningkamp. He's Tortuga Blade Works. If you go follow his Instagram, he's been doing a lot of cool kind of like tutorials about how he forges his blades, how he makes his sandwai, and some of the like the special techniques he uses for kind of doing corrective forging and straightening out blades as he's moving through his process. He's making some really great sandmai style knives, hunters, kind of in the vein of Mr. Jason Knight, and who he has learned from, and so it's understandable. But he's making really great stuff, so go check him out as well. He's got a really cool sandmai. Actually, I just posted up that I really like. I struggle with sandmai sometimes, so it would probably be useful to get together with Brian and do some work because I need to figure that out. All right, next up is Mr. Tony Sasma. He's at TNT Forge on Instagram. Good man. He's been posting recently. He's been posting about just people using his knives. There's no better feeling than making a quality knife, putting your heart and soul into it, and then seeing it out in the world, slicing and dicing and chopping stuff up. He focuses mostly on culinary knives. He makes all kinds of knives, but he makes culinary knives, and so he's been posting some cool photos of the knives being put to use in the kitchen. He's got some blades too. He's just forging up some new Damascus, and he's getting some new blades going. He does a phenomenal finish job. So go over and check out his Instagram page. He gets some really great finishes on his blades because yeah, I don't know, it's exemplary. He does a really high contrast. It's awesome. Love it. And then next up is Mr. Eric Kidwell. Eric is he's been off and on in the knife making industry. He has been working with Travis Wirtz for a long time, especially when it comes to taking video and videography at Travis Wirtz Hammering, and I believe he's going to be there again. I'm just messaging with him recently, trying to confirm that. But he's a great dude. He's getting his shop put together and back up and running, or I guess not back up and running, but he's building it up. He's going to get rocking and rolling, and he's been a great support. Go check him out on Instagram at District 202 LLC. There isn't a ton of knife making on there yet, but I guarantee he's going to be a good journey to be following because he has a lot of good people who can mentor him, especially very talented makers that go to the Travis Wirtz Hammering. And then finally, we have Mr. Ben Butcher of Amo Blades. That's AMO Bladesmithing, actually, on Instagram. And he is a guy just south of me. He's down in Oregon, a couple hours south. It's cool to have these sponsors who are near me because I'm gonna try to get, again, like I said about Mike, try to get these people together, get some of these people together who are near me or who are interested in traveling out for a little breaking in the hammer, kind of hang out and forge situation. He's got a cool design that he just worked on. He just posted about the other day. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But he also does these blade swap outs. He buys folders, like commercially manufactured folders. I think Columbia, was it Kershaw. Kershaw is close to him, and so he goes and buys them, and then he pulls the blades out and he swaps them out for like some really cool high carbon Damascus, mosaic Damascus blades, and it's a really fun project to kind of just swap out those blades and take something that looks very simple and make it something that's very aesthetically beautiful and complex. And so, without further ado, I just want to say thank you one last time to all the super sponsors and everybody over on the Patreon as well. Without their support, without your support, I wouldn't be able to put on this podcast and take the time to do this work. And so I appreciate all of you. Don't forget also to go over to the Discord. We got a lot of people over in the Discord, a lot of good conversations, people asking questions and helping each other out, looking for feedback, sharing tips and stuff like that. So go check out the Discord, which you can get to through the Patreon. And then without further ado, I keep saying that, I want to introduce my friend Henning Wilkinson. I first met Henning, I believe it was 2019. He can correct me if I'm wrong. When he came over and introduced himself to me, actually, I think one of the Aussies, I think it was Corn that introduced him to me, or maybe Kev. Kev Slattery. And anyway, somebody introduced him to me. It was great to meet him. I'd never seen him or seen any of his work before, and he handed me this knife that blew my fucking mind. Because I was astonished that I hadn't already seen this level of work already. He comes from a background of gunsmithing, which we will get into, as which involves being, I don't know if he would consider himself a master machinist, but he is extremely talented on all the different tools and machines he uses for his knife making. Let's pull him in here right now. And Henning, I just want to say thank you for coming on and chatting with me, and also for being an alum of the Artisans of Steel not podcast. You are an alum now, but of the Artisans of Steel calendar. I think it was either the first or second year. When I was trying to think, I early on, I didn't know how many years I was going to do. And so right off the get, I was like, I got to get some of the best work I've ever seen into this calendar. And you were definitely top of the list for me. And so I appreciate you doing that as well. But how you doing over there?
Thank you, my friend. It means a lot, man. It really does. And thank you for having me, man. I've been looking forward to doing this with you for a long time. I'm glad we met at 2018 Blade, and
okay.
I don't know if you remember. I've still got them. You and Kev were showing your muscles, and I stood at the corner. Can you remember that?
I do remember that.
I'll send you the picture.
I don't think you have to send it to me. I think I got it. I'm just working on pulling it up right now. Let's see. We'll pop it up on the screen when it gets uploaded. But yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of the best times
2018
of my life
when we first met.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Is that your first time at Blade Show?
Yeah, that was actually. I think I was going on like 6 months, so I decided to do Blade Show and did it on a prayer, dude, and it just came together, and it was incredible. It was really incredible time of my life.
Wow. Just to make sure, because so
I just
Henning, we're chatting with each other. Henning is down in South Africa, and I'm here in Washington State in the United States. I don't necessarily have the best service right now. It looks like we both, I mean, the stuff on the side says we have good service, but there might be a few breakups and cutouts here and there. So we're gonna go through this slow. We're just gonna have a casual conversation, and if I need to clarify anything, don't hopefully you don't feel like I'm just interrupting you out of nowhere, because I'm just trying to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying.
That's fine.
I found the picture, by the way, with your face nestled in between both of us.
Yeah, this was a good time, man.
Yeah,
it was a real good time.
So you were saying that you had only been making knives for 6 months before you went to that Blade Show in 2018?
No. I went full time November before. So yeah, I've been making 2000.
Okay.
So yeah, years, and then I started to go again after about well, off during those 6 years, but not. I wasn't selling, so I wasn't really.
I gotcha.
Out there at all, and
That
then
makes sense.
then I decided to do Blade Show, and I didn't have much money, but everything just came together for me at that show.
Yeah,
I was
interesting. I'd be curious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just pulled into the knife community, and I was walking into the pit. First time I walk in there, and somebody screams my name, and I'm like, "Who the hell is that?" And it's Jason Knight, and told him about me, and all of a sudden it was like, this guy knows my name. How the hell? It just, I don't know. It just changed the whole way I was really daunted by the whole thing of being. Well, if he knows my name, I'm gonna have the best time of my life, because then I don't care. And everybody just pulled me in and made me friends, and I loved it. Really, really,
I will say, I think that's one of the greatest virtues of the live shows these days. Obviously, especially as you start to develop a name for yourself, it's easier and easier internet through Instagram or your website or a newsletter. But the really hard part is breaking out, and it sounds like that's what you were really struggling with, and you decided to take the chance and go out to Blade Show. You said, you were pinching your pennies to get out there and make it happen, and you did. Was that like a breakthrough moment for you into the realm of knife making? Because to me, like I said, when I first saw it, I was completely shocked that I hadn't seen anything like it before. And you handed me like a full-on art piece that if it was any other maker with a big name, it would be like a $30,000 piece, if not more, right? And so I was just like, oh my God, I was kind of scared to hold it and look at it. It was also, I was probably a couple drinks in, it was late at night and in a poorly lit area of the pit, but it was a good time, but your work really shocked me. And so so I would love to hear. We're gonna be jumping around, I think, in this podcast, because we're just starting right off the bat with Blade Show, how we first met. So I would be curious to know how that worked out for you going forward after going to that first Blade Show.
Yeah, you see, the thing is what happened, and this was amazing. It's like you said, my biggest problem was getting my name into the international market. Locally, I was pretty well known, and I could. The local markets, it's very, very tough. You don't get a lot of money for your souls. Really not easy.
Sure.
So what had happened was, I decided, and I sent a bunch of pictures to Steve Shackelford, and I said to him, if Blade Man can help in any way, I'd really appreciate it, whatever you guys can do. And about 2 weeks later, I got a message from, and he said that he'd seen my work. I had no idea who the guy was. I had no idea. And he asked me, what am I bringing to the Blade Show? Because he saw some pictures of myself and what I'm doing, and it might be interested in buying a piece. And I just finished what I did with some very, very tough footwork on the handle.
Okay.
And it had a really nice feather blade. So I said, well, I literally finished this today. What do you think? And he came back to me and he said to me, the only thing that came up in my mind was to ask him what blade was going to cost me, and I sold it. And he ended up basically cleaning off my table, literally taking everything. So, yeah.
You were a good deal. That's what you were. He's like, boy, I'm getting all of them.
He didn't take that dagger. It was actually another godsend, because I was speaking to a young man but I reckon he was about years old, and he was giving me the runaround. Hotel room, bring the knife. I'd like to have a look at it again in private. Went to his hotel room, which is, if you've never traveled internationally, you got to figure out how to get there. I get there, I find, no, we've left, we've gone to the pit, and then I took the whole knife and everything down to the pit. Shit. And he looked at me and ignored me. And it was like, okay, he doesn't really want this piece. And then I had a piece there, and everybody was like, what the fuck, mate? And I started showing it to guys, and I had a really good reaction from it, and got a lot of guys interested in my work, a lot of other makers. Yeah. And Jason and a lot of guys have been promoting me big time since then. I also had one of my hunters, my keyhole hunter, got into the Blade show, Blade magazine, like on the front page of the,
sure,
I don't know, the Blade section in Blade,
yeah,
and that helped a ton as well. So from it's just exploded. It's just become. I look back at it, and that's why I'm so thankful, and I'm always thanking God for my work and thanking Him for what I'm doing. See how He's just changed everything, because this whole thing has just been an amazing journey, my friend. I'm telling you that I can't believe that I've done what I've done in the knife trade, and there's no blessing. There's no. I mean, it has to. It's opened so many doors. Opened, and they just keep opening. I was literally on Monday morning. I was thinking, shit, the things are slowing down. It's not like I'm anymore. And I get a message from my friend Mareka and says, "Hey, buddy, don't you want to be on my pod?" Here we go. It's picking up again. It's just the way it works. Yeah, that Blade show just opened so many doors. And then we had, of course, COVID, and I was stuck over here. I couldn't go anywhere. I had to watch you guys have all the fun at Blade Show, because then we had Blade Show West added, and Texas came along, and we had that added, and then last year, when we could go back, out there as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then I winning that prize for.
Yeah, it was best fighter, right?
Yeah, best fighter. And
yeah,
my award says best fighter, just be because they finally realized that I am the best fighter at Blade Show. So it's like don't this guy can fight. But yeah, it's like that just blew the doors off. Guys, I mean, I just started 2 keyholes on Friday. I posted 2 really not even, you can't even say that they are knives, and they're already guys that have, and to be able to do what we do on a daily basis, I tough it is. It's worth it, man.
Yeah,
it's worth it. Every second of it. It's just amazing. And I wake up in the morning and I still pinch myself. I'm like, what can be better than this?
That's good. That's great. So let's back up now.
Yeah.
And so tell us, because I'm not very familiar with South Africa and what it's like to grow up there. So what was it like for you growing up there, and what was your childhood like? What kind of work did your parents do that kind of got you on the path that you're on, or what are some of the steps that led to where you're at now? I understand you were a gunsmith before you got to knife making. If I might have that mixed up. But what were you doing before that? And where did you go to school for machining that led it to the gunsmithing? So, what was childhood like?
No,
how did you get to where you're at?
I grew up in a small little town. It's pretty much in the middle of Gauteng, which is it's to the north of Africa, to the north of South Africa.
Okay.
And it's a really tough little. If you can't fight before you walk, you're going to be in trouble in this town. He grew up tough, and but it was the thing is, my dad, and he's one of the best. And just look at the stuff that he does. Hold on a second. My son's just coming in and started talking.
You're good.
Get out of here. So my dad's one of those guys that basically use any tool. He just didn't care. I think my mom on a metal lathe, something similar to the one behind me.
Yeah.
I remember doing my first paid lathe job at the age of 10, machining little parts for guys that were making CD racks. And I bought myself a bicycle. I was working a lathe when I was about 7 and 8, and record for getting archives at the age of 4.
Right.
Because he the work. So my dad always used to say, you know what, if he cuts his fingers off, he's not going to die from it. He'll just learn and let him play. So we were always in the shop doing stuff for extra money.
Yeah.
And we'd be helping him. To this day, I hate putting away tools because that was my job.
Right.
It is, but we were always busy with something.
Yeah.
Then I went to high school and did a lot of woodwork. My dad sort of quit his job and we started a woodwork factory. And there is, if any of the machines broke, it was basically, it would come down to me or my brother next. There I once again learned an immense amount about machining. I came to understand the finer points of it. And then after school, when I left school, the situation in South Africa changed big time.
Okay.
I don't look. I could go and study at a university for a physiotherapist, and about halfway through my final year of matric, the end of matric, they sent me a letter stating that, unfortunately, due to the new quota system, which was race governed, I won't be able to come study, and because I've done all the work and now I've got to deal with politicians to get. So I got really rebellious, and I was like, well, then I'm going to go and join. Worked there for about 2 years, and then that drove me nuts. And then there was a guy that I'd met in the gun shop, and he said to me for an apprentice, and I don't think it was a month, and I was a gunsmith apprentice.
Okay.
Did that for about 2 years. As I was about to qualify, once again, the government got in new gun laws, which were absolutely nuts. And the whole gun trade in South Africa for about 6 years. But during the time I was doing my gunsmithing, gent that was always coming in to have alterations done to his guns, a folder, and it was an Emerson Commander, and it's just on the top where you pull it out of your pants and it opens up.
Right.
And I was just like, I just got it, and asked him about it, and he was like, yeah, grand. At that stage, my salary was about $1,500, and my get to work was about $1,800. So there was no way of me to purchase that. So we've got this family thing: if you can't buy it, make it.
Right.
I started talking to guys about it. There were guys that were selling some of their knives, and one guy, and I spoke to him, and he said to me, come to the no, sorry, he said to me for a blade, but it was too small to do the Emerson Commander. I started fixing. I even got this guy to loan me his knife, and I took it apart and I drew it out so that I knew how to build it. And during that time, a friend of ours told me brother-in-law is a knife maker in the South African Knife Makers Guild, and he lived which is about, I don't know, 2.5 miles away.
Oh wow.
And see this guy, and we spoke, and he said to me, you know what, you should come to the South African Knife Makers Guild show. There'll be guys there that'll be selling steel and handle material, because I was resisting at G10 handles and
Sure.
titanium liners, and you just, it wasn't available.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the show. The guy that I met, his name's Carl Smith. Now, he wrote a book on, in my opinion, still one of the best knife make or Damascus manuals out there, because he's a primary school teacher, and it's written in the way so that even a primary understand how the patterning works and how the forges work, and all of that stuff is there.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I go to the show. Takes me over to a guy, Iterate Gian Ferrari, which is a South African that make the most unbelievable, and it blew my mind. I was like, this is something totally different. This is more than what I've ever seen, and I couldn't get those knives out of my head. He had this one knife. He get these little hand models, and he got this thing set up, and this thing, it's a fold like, I don't know, 10 inches long, the whole thing, and it's sitting in there, and it's called Dragonfly. I see it now, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I went to it for this knife, and I came home, and I started, and I bought Bob Tezzola's book on Motormake, which is also a brilliant book for somebody that wants to begin to make folders. And I got the folder perfect, and I was really happy with it. And I went to Carl, and I showed him the thing, and he looked at me. What was what drove you to make this knife? And I said, and he said to me, did you enjoy the stainless work? Because it was a stainless blade. All of it, polishing that piece of stainless, it was the most irritating work that I've ever had to do.
Sure.
And he said, don't you want to come and we'll forge out a blade? And I was like, yeah, because I showed my folder to a guy, and he wanted me to make, that would be awesome if I could come out and forge out a blade and then finish it as a chef's knife. And fixed up the next weekend, bought some gas, and the first blade, I've got it up in my shop every now. I think it's just fallen down. It's just behind my table. But I've had a bunch of guys over to come and forge blades at my house. I've never feel like I screwed that thing up. It was ridiculous. It was 2 mils thick, and there was nothing left. And then Carl forged the blade, and he showed me how to do it, and then we forged the set. And I went home and I made this chef's knife. And we hard blade warped, and he showed me how to straighten it, and I was like, this is cool, because one of my stainless knives blade warped, and I broke the thing trying to fix it. This is like it's alive.
Sure.
And got the chef's knife done, and Carl said to me, you know what, the next step is you got to come and make a piece of Damascus. I've got to. And I went back the next weekend, packed up some 5160 and K600 because that's all we had over here. We didn't have any.
Okay.
Really. And we forged for the whole of that Saturday. I was hooked. I literally spent 2 years building a press and building forges and getting them to work. And that was just, I couldn't stop because I just couldn't. And I'll never forget my best friend Jurgen came out to help me. And I was under the impression that you could get better hit the material. So you got to hit it with something. You got to hit it with a 4-pound hammer or something. I spoke to Carl and I said to him, "Are you going to use your treadle hammer this weekend?" And he was like, "No, I'm coming over. I'm going to bring it to my house and then I want to forge some billets." Yeah, okay. So I went and got this thing. And inside this wood, I was forging billets. And I was like, the more there is, the better. It's like,
sure.
It's like you gotta, every time I would hit a weld with that treadle hammer, Jurgen would look over my shoulder like this, fry his face with flux. He was burnt all over. I was like, "You want to make some Damascus?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll come and help you, but as long as you don't burn me." So I made my first piece of steel, and I actually screwed it up because I wanted to make a dagger. Since I saw Etrays and every dagger, that was the one thing that I wanted to make.
Sure.
And steel, and I saw what Bertie Rietveld did. I was like, I can do that. That's pretty easy. I understand the mechanics behind. Squeezed some stuff that I've welded together with lines in it, and I put this line. Spoke to Carl, and he said to me, "How do we do this? And how do we do that?" And I was like, and I ended that came out really, really nice.
Okay.
And Carl said, releasing my book at the next guild show. Do anyone want to come and sit there with me? Like, yeah, okay, because these guys are going to be, I mean, these guys have all tested. You pay your fee and you're in. You've got to pan in a bunch of knives.
Yeah.
And it was really well made. And I just could never get rid of the bug of making them. I never could. It was one that I would still, to this day, if you tell me, dude, yeah, but I'd rather make the basket. It's more fun. It's with that material and opening it up and putting it in the ferric and going.
Yeah.
I made that. It's amazing. So what happened was I came back from honeymoon and I decided I'm going to join the guild. And I made knives and got into the guild. And I made, I don't know, but I wasn't a full-time maker. I was doing it as a part-time thing. It wasn't really going well. My stuff wasn't selling. Really sell knives at shows. Guys would come to me afterwards and I would have to bargain. Sometimes I would just trade this stuff for other stuff. And I was definitely, my head was a little bit too big for my shoulders back then. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I have very few guys that were making Damascus in South Africa. And I thought, dude, this stuff's amazing. Why is my shit not selling?
Sure.
And guys' stuff that's made out of Damascus and go, well, my stuff looks very similar to theirs. And I remember going to a guild show and they had a bunch of David Durham's books there with for the folding knives.
Okay.
And back then, I would just turn the pages because it was just like, I want to see what the next guy did. I want to see what I remember opening up this book and finding Steve's work. That hunting scene, and I go, and never reading the description, going, okay, so this guy knows how wax etching works. What the brilliant. Well done. You just drew a little picture of a man with wax and then you etched it, and why is it in here? And I would skip it. And I think I had that book for about 3 months. Stuff, and I started reading it, and I got to the section on batten welded steel. Yeah, this stuff, and I see, but this is written by Steve Schwarzer. I thought, but he's that guy, that section. And I went back to that section and I read that article or that plane that there is Damascus. And I don't know. And I looked at the sizes and I was like, this thing, that little picture is the size of my thumbnail. It was like a bomb went off in my head, and I realized, you know what? There's more to making Damascus than just taking a bunch of shit and welding it together and grinding into it or twisting it up. And it was just this, okay, I need out what makes this stuff so amazing.
Sure.
And she said I went nuts because the pattern that I wanted to do right after that was to do it. And I think I must have done 40 pounds of feather that I just dumped and threw away.
Feathers, yeah.
Didn't look like a feather. The stuff didn't look like a feather, and I would throw it away off center. And every time I'd do an adjustment and go, okay, I need to do this and I need to do that. Reading up about it, and guys were saying, no, but they use 15 and 20 and 1085 or 10. I'm gonna get this material. It's the material. It's not me, it's the material. And I got like 40 pounds of 15 and 20, and I did a feather, and it was like, it's not the material, it's you. But the thing is, the moment I got it right, it was like, okay, I want to chase the tough stuff, because the amount of payback from doing tough stuff, that's what my real payoff. It's not getting a guy to buy my stuff. It's the payoff is in doing that no one else can do. Or the, how the hell did you do that? I love that. And I go, how did you do that? It's like,
I live for it.
You got it. It's amazing. Your stuff, of course, makes me go squint.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I know. I see your comments on my posts, and you're like, my brain's hurting again. I'm like, ha ha ha, good.
Got him. So yes, so I did knives back then, and I would do them, and I think as a knife maker that wants to do knives, I'm not saying that your stuff or anybody else's stuff is low end, don't get me wrong, but knife stuff, you can't do it like that. You've literally, my stuff wouldn't sell. Stuff would just sit in the safe. If I'd make them, I'll take them to a show. Ooh, oh, that's really nice, and then that's where it stayed. And we actually sort of lost the woodworking factory during blackouts. It was the first time that it happened in South Africa.
Okay.
Nobody knew what was going to happen, and I lost. We walked in the Monday morning, saying that the order book was cancelled. So I'm sorry, but anyway, I decided, well, the only other thing that I can do is make knives. I've got to work and make knives.
Yeah.
And I started making knives. It went well. Actually, looking back at it, it went really well. I wasn't I mean, you know how hard work it is. I mean, early in the morning and you're in the forge for the whole day, and then you're like halfway there, and then the next day is another. You get into the grinding room and you've got to grind the whole day, and then hand sand, and it's they say that it's a grind. Yeah, it's like you got to get these things out, and they got to be perfect.
Right.
And then standing at my bench on a Friday afternoon. No, sorry, it was a Saturday, and my wife came in and she gave me and that Friday I just cleared the bills, paid, gotten a bunch of money in, and just of all the bills that had to be paid by next week Friday, and just went, you know what, God, you say that you'll take care of me. This isn't taking care of me. This is bull. And I walked to my garage door. That door can still open is a wonder, because I walked out of the shop, and I went and sat in the house, and my wife said, hurt. I said to her, what do you mean? She says, that's the only time you stopped working for the last 6 months. I'm not hurt, but you could see that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And then Monday morning, and he had bought enough stuff from me to pay all the bills on. And for some reason, when we walked out the door, I said to him, do you maybe have a job for me? And when I said it, I was like, where the hell did that come from? Working for him, and I had more money that I could. I mean, I brothers' bills. I paid everybody's bills. It was like, now I'm getting what the world. This is what the world tells me. This is what it has to be, and now I've got it. So I was happy. All over South Africa, I was working in the world trade, so you had to go where the work was. Away from home on a weekly basis, and for weeks on weekends, maybe if I'm lucky. I had a rule that said, if I can, I sleep. You drive, I don't know, I would wake up and drive down to Durban, which is I don't know, 600 and 700 kilometers, do some work,
wow,
sleep in a hotel, the next morning drive back to Pretoria, do a job, and next morning drive to Bloemfontein, which is about the same as, it's also about 600. By the end of the week, I always use this as an example. When you are a company and they know your voice because you're trying to book a service, literally phone this lady that receives 1,000 calls a day, and you phone her and she goes, hi Henning, how are you? You need to. It was how it was. It was like 3 times a month.
right.
And I just slipping into this hole. I had told me I should have, but I was losing my wife, I was losing my kids. My son was growing up, my daughter was growing up without me. I was never in the way I should be as a father.
Sure.
And going to a job and realizing that I don't have enough money to pay my truck. And I said to him, listen, can you sell my truck? And he was like, yeah, I'll sell your truck for you. It's not a problem. And I remember driving, and I said, God, how do I sort this out? What do I do? I don't want to lose it. And God just said to me, I heard him in my soul, I don't know where, but he said to me, just do a Damascus course. And stuff. So I thought, well, what have I got to lose? There's nothing to lose. And I created a post, and I said, anybody interested in doing a Damascus course, it's going to cost you, what would that be, about $300 for a forge. I'll be doing all the forge work, and you guys can watch me, and we'll go through all the patterns. And by, I don't know, not to say to guys, sorry dudes, I don't have space for you. And I booked 2 courses. and all my money was just went off. Doing that first course, and I did a multi-bar blade with and centipede in the middle, and you're working. There's no time to. I mean, you've done count like hammer ends and stuff. You know what it's like when there's 20 guys vying for your attention. It's this constant stream of. By the end of the day, your brain's dead. You can't even think anymore. And I just finished forging this thing to shape. It was looking like it was a small, and I took the grinder and cleaned it up, and everybody just left me. Now, to this day, I don't understand that, but that was, in my opinion, away from me. And sorry, man.
You're good.
Stuck that blade in the ferric. And I pulled it, and for the first time in 6 years, I was alive. This is what I need to do.
Yeah.
This makes me feel alive.
Right.
And the course was over, got everybody out of this. And during that time that I was working over holidays and weekends, I with no limits to them, because I wasn't going to sell them. They were mine. I was making them for myself. And
sure.
A good friend of mine, Rian Manso, from Three Leg Dog Knives, I actually got him back in the day when he had some trouble. I was like, dude, here's some steel. He bought a grinder making knives, and he's also now a full-time maker. But he said to me, why don't you come and do Brooklyn Knife Show, which is Niels van der Berg from Black Dragon Forge hosts. And back then, the Brooklyn Knife Show was more for like the weekly. They're not the guild members. They're not they just sell. It's like flea market knife type. I'm not trying to take a hit at any of those guys. Please don't get me.
Sure.
And I was like, you know what? Why the hell not? Let's do this. And that short sword, and I was like, I'm going to make this thing spectacular. And I handle, and I made the guard so that it had these, and I did a pommel with a round pommel with a round piece of like a neck, and I still remember standing there, making yourself a really, really nice sword at the moment.
Yeah.
It's going to sit in your safe. And the whole time it was like, yeah, but you know what? I'm going to put everything into it. I'm not just going to leave it. That got my new maker's mark, that cross. I put that in there. And I went to the show with Rian, and I had probably over the course of, I don't know, 8 years sold. I've never sold pieces at a show. So I had two hunting knives, a design that I've been sitting in my head for years that I made, and I had a Ford, and I had a nice Bowie with a feather blade. Sorry, man, my mouth's just getting dry.
You're good.
And I put this down on my table, and I was chatting to knife makers and collectors, and come around to my table and hold the sword, and just had a real ball. And this one collector kept on coming back to my table, and asking me for pricing. What would the price be if I take everything off your table? And I thought, it was like, really? And I said to him, you know what? I'm not going to give you more discount. You want to take it, you don't want it, don't. And he stuck his hand out and he said, I'm taking all of it. And it was just this unbelievable feeling of freedom. It's like stuff.
Sure.
This guy just bought my stuff.
Wow.
And I came home and I said to my wife, I want to do full-time knife making. She said to me, "Yeah, you tried it before and it didn't really work." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And the people that I was working for sort of slowed down because there was a lot of guys that came into the market and they sort of cut our price. I wasn't as busy as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So on the days that I didn't have work, I would be. I decided that I was going to do the guild show for the first time in 6 years. And I decided that I was going to do some really, really nice. And I ended up making another sword for a guy, Roman gladius, but I think they call it the Hispanensis. It's a long broadsword with a 4-bar
Sure.
blade and really, really, really nice stuff. And one of the guys there said to me, "Dude, you should do a keyhole." I was like, "This is so cool." And a week before Blade Show, or before Guild Show, I was done with all, and I was really tired, and I was lying on the couch, and I took my phone and I said, and this thing popped up, and I was like, "You know what? If I could find somebody with that keyhole for me, I reckon I could fit that." I think I've got, and my apprentice, which is also he's also my Wilkinson, he phones me up and he goes, "I've got a buddy here that wants to come and see your knives." It's like, dude, it's not even 20 seconds later, my phone rings. And guy pulls up, forget it. I call him Justin Stinkerton. He's Justin Pinkerton. This guy's got hair like this. He's got, like, call him Mike because he looks like a microphone. This is huge black busher hair.
Yeah.
Comes and has a look at my knives, and we're standing there, we're chatting, and I said to him, "What do you do for a living?" He says, "I at my dad's tool and die making shop." I said, "Do you have a wire cutter?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "No, it's standing there. It's been standing for 3 weeks. We've got no work for it." I was like, and I quickly drew up the picture, and I'm like, "Do you think you can cut that for me?" And it's like, "Yeah." And the Monday morning, I got in the shop at like 4, and I had some really, really mosaic Damascus that I did, and I made this thing, and I forged it to him, and I said to him, "Okay, dude, there you go." And that afternoon, he phoned me back. He says, I've got your thing cut already." And the next morning, I started fitting that thing. And I worked it out. I had it's about $600 now in handle material that I had that I screwed up on that keel.
Oh
and
boy.
The last nice piece of wood, I got it right, and I figured it out. And I was like, okay, because I'm doing it and pressing it in. And I was like, and eventually, no. There's another way of doing it. We do with gun barrels. You just got to fit it. Take your time and fit it and get it in there. And I went and did my first guild show in 6 years. And I mean, the South African knife makers have got an incredible high standard of knife making.
Sure.
I mean, there's guys over here that are still have to be discovered. There's new kids on the block. Skonik's knife, look at his stuff if you can. It's spectacular. This guy's he hasn't even made, and his stuff is brilliant. It's really, really good. He's not even in the guild, not even close, but his work is spectacular. It's really, really. So you go to the guild show, and there's a bunch of extremely good makers. I decided to. I think I gave in for judging for prizes, and I ended up winning I sold out all the knives I had on my table except one, which was a big bowie that I made, also a nice feather bowie. And the guy that had bought most of it, I spoke to him on the come and deliver your blades. He said, yeah, sure, come around on Thursday and you can drop them off. And now I really want to go full time. And I said to my wife, you know what, I'm going to go full time. I want to do making. And she was like, get an order book. Get an order book with some orders in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get an order book. I'll get some orders and then we can talk about it. I go and deliver these knives, and on the way there, or before I leave here, I just phoned the guy for me to come out there, and he was like, yeah. He said, do you have any other things that you want to sell? I said, yeah, I've got that big bowie. Oh, I thought that was sold. And I found out afterwards, I looked at a picture that a guy posted. Sold tag from the knife in front of it made it look like that piece was sold. So I took him this piece. And then he said, you know what? I want you to make me a sword like the one you had at the show, but something better. I was like, okay, I need a budget. You need to give me an idea of what you want to spend. And away for a week. He'll phone me in a week's time and let me know. So, okay, so I get up. This guy wants me to make him a sword. That's going to be a big build. It's going to be a lot of bucks in it. So is that an order book or what are we talking about? And she said, no, that's not an order book. We need like a 4 months worth of work. And I was like, okay. And I just couldn't do the work that I was doing anymore.
Yeah.
I'd be nuts. It was just, and I remember he said to me, he'd phone me on the Wednesday morning, job on that Wednesday. And everything on that job had car crashes. We had a lady fall with a motorbike and just nuts. And I drove home and I was in this weird mood. And I was like, you know what, God, I'm just going to jump. I'm just going to jump into your hands and I'm going to start making knives. And I got home and I said, Mom, quit. I'm going to phone this guy and I'm going to quit. And she looked at me with this, oh, wives do that with this apprehension in it. This was like, are you nuts? Are you out of your...
Right.
And I just knew I had to do it. And this guy hasn't phoned me yet. We're talking about it's like 7 p.m. When is he going to phone? And anyway, I phoned my boss and I said, listen, I quit. 30 days, I'm done. Can't do this anymore. And I went and I like a full glass. And halfway through it, my phone rang. This guy said, I want you to make me a sword and I want to give you a budget of about $10,000. I burst out in tears. I was broken. Yeah. And his reaction was, you cry. And I was like, hey, I'll phone you back. I'll explain to you what's going on. Dude, it took me 2 years to make his sword and deliver his sword. Everything I made just went out the door. Everything I made, everything I touched, and it's been like everything I make, everything I do, it's easy. It's and I design a knife, and half an hour later, I've got what I want, and I start making it, and it just falls together. I mean, I think I've had one cracked blade in 4 years. The rest of it,
that's good.
And I just love it. It's just such a journey. It's such a awesome thing because you know what it's like to wake up in the morning and you get to play with your passion. I mean,
yeah.
My buddies phone me up and they go, "Hey, you work?" I'm like, what do you mean no? Haven't worked in like 4 years, buddy. Yeah, we're not working. I've retired. I'm at home. I'm playing. I'm doing what I love to do, and it's not work all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the story of, or the shorts became a full-time knife maker.
Right. No, that's great. Yeah, it sounds like there is a lot of serious ups and downs, roller coaster ride, but I'm glad you're in a more steady space, it sounds like now. But sometimes,
Yeah, absolutely.
honestly, I think people think that you're gonna get somewhere spectacular by just walking a flat line, and that's not how life works. Like, it is an
No.
up and down, and the trick is
Yeah, dude, it's
being in the mental space, and maybe not even always being ready, but being able to somehow roll with the punches as they come, as you hit those, those troughs and those valleys and those peaks. Peaks are great. They're high and they're fun, and you can ride them for a little while, but then you're back down at a bottom again, and that's just how life works. And that's in this industry. That's definitely. I don't know very many stories, honestly, or any stories of people who just like they hit it and then it's just smooth sailing from here on out. It's not like that for anybody. And I
yeah, dude. I'm
think
not saying
that
that it was smooth sailing. It's been easy.
no, 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 I'm not
Sacrifice.
saying that you were. I'm not saying that you were.
No, no, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm you've got to if you do something and you're gonna get by for the rest of your life. That's
Yeah.
what you're gonna do. If you get your ass in gear and take on the stuff that no one wants to take on, do the fits that nobody wants to fit, do
Yeah.
the piece of steel that nobody even thought of, or Neil van der Berg's got this rule number 1 is don't fuck up. In my shop, rule number 1 is let's see how far I can push this thing so that every time you screw up, you learn something.
Mm. Yep.
Every time that pattern isn't exactly what you learn something.
Yep.
And
I prescribe to
at the
that.
beginning, I was in so much more work than what you get paid for in the beginning. My stuff's worth more than what I'm charging for it. But my payoff is like I said, on a daily basis. And if you push yourself to the limit and screw up all the time, and you're all day pushing yourself, I don't see how you cannot make it in this. It makes everybody look at you, and it looks at your work and says, you know what, it's different. And I don't know, I think that's from the start, is to do the tough stuff. It's like I said to you, it's like got it right in the end. That was like, okay, I need to do this. I need to keep on seeing how far I can push it and what I can do with what I've got. And I love that about it. I love the fact that we, as knife makers, not just knife makers, but as human beings, are made in literally. Sorry, I've got a mosquito that wants to jump me. That we can. There are no limits for us.
Right.
On the back of it, it says only limit is his perception of what he thinks he can and cannot do.
Mm.
And because if you really go out there and I mean, dude, I've finding your stuff. Rian Munster sent me this thing about one of your pattern welded Wednesdays.
Okay.
And I remember going on Instagram and I looked, who is this guy? What is he doing? All his patterning away just like that. How is he? Dude, I couldn't wait for Wednesday to roll around because I just wanted to see what you were doing.
Sure.
Is you were and you still are pushing your cutting edge of creating a piece of steel that blows people's minds. I don't even know what you call it. That weird weave that you do every time you do it.
Oh, right.
And the first time you did it, I was like, holy shit, how does he get there? How does he even start to think of that to get it? That's why your stuff is special, because it's, I mean, everybody can do an S grind. Everybody applies himself for more than a week and figure out how to do an S grind. I mean, sure. I can teach my apprentice Gareth how to do it. Everybody can do it. If he can figure it out, it's easy. But it's like when you shape a handle, you can see the effort that's gone into that handle.
Sure.
You can see this guy didn't handle. There was time taken and care taken. And I think if you're a knife maker and you want to make the same knife every weekend for the rest of your life, or every week for the rest of your journey, that's what you want to do. But I don't want to be on that journey. I want to see how far I can take.
Sure.
I look at the stuff that, I mean, we were in this little bubble, and you could just see what the other guys were. Then the forums came around, and you started seeing what the American guys and the rest of the world are doing. These guys are a little bit further than ladder pattern. This is like fun. And then we got these bunch of books from that, and was like, holy shit, look at what these guys are doing. And you started getting this real, like a renaissance growth in South Africa, like really awesome work. And Stuart Smith and Niels van der Berg, and I don't know, there's a bunch of guys that just all of a sudden this forging thing just exploded, helped that shit out as well, and it just got crazy. It just got this whole thing of making just exploded. That's how I experienced it on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But then a guy would roll around and it would be like, shit, and it would be such an inspiration, and it would be, I would lay awake in patterns. And I remember the first time you mentioned my name was when I did a pattern that you did, and you said, this Henning Wilkinson guy is a badass. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and you said, oh, I didn't just figure that out, buddy. It took me like a month to figure it out. A very little sleep for like a month to figure out how you did that. The thing is, if we can keep on and do better and to do more crazy patterns and crazy fun designs, and the sky's the limit. Can you imagine? I don't think there'll ever be an end to it, because there's always going to be guys like you around that just will envelope that little further open, and the envelope's just getting bigger and bigger, and I'm very, very, very thankful that I can be part of that.
Yeah.
When guys tell me on Instagram that my work inspires them, I don't know how to take that. I don't know how to tell you how that makes me feel. It's amazing. It's right. An amazing feeling to know that I'm one of the guys that is inspiring other people, like the big guys, to do the crazy stuff that I sometimes attempt.
Sure.
I don't know. This is such a special thing for me. I get all I don't know. I'm a big guy, but I've got a really small heart. That's, I don't know. It's
no, you're a big guy, but you have a bigger heart.
I don't know. Most guys say big. I don't know. Maybe I should just go and check my hormones again. I think my estrogen might be a little bit high.
No, I'm there. I'm right there with you. I'm a very sensitive guy. But yeah, I think I'm on the same program as you, where I'm constantly trying to push myself, and I'm comfortable putting stuff out there because to me it's actually it's a different way of challenging. Like, you challenge yourself by doing all these insane fit ups and all this kind of stuff in addition to your pattern welding and everything else. For me, the way I'm challenging myself is I'm kind of like giving it away. And then I'm like, all right, well, what can I come up with next? And I have pages and pages of patterns that I haven't made yet because I haven't had the time to do them. Um, but I've said this before, but part of the reason I put stuff out there too is to selfishly kind of see what people do with that, how they put their little twist on it, and then that kind of re-inspires me, or I see something, I'm like, "Ooh, I didn't think of that." Just even though maybe they followed it step by like to the T, step by step, but because of the original organization of the pattern, of the layers was different than mine, just slightly or somehow different lines
Yeah.
line up in a different way, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that." And then it's just a continuous cycle of being re-inspired and inspiring, and I'm right there with you though. I'm like, I'm trying to put stuff out there to help others, um, and I don't know how to take it either sometimes. I get messages as well, like, "You inspired me to start knife making," and blah, like, all these kind of, like, really incredible messages, and I struggle with, like, me just being like, "Well, I'm just like some ding dong who 10 years ago was, like, washing dishes and cooking in restaurants," right? And now I'm like this person who's kind of seen as a leader in a way, especially when it comes like Damascus patterns and stuff like that, or maybe some of my stuff, chef's knife stuff, but especially the Damascus patterns. And I honestly, like, I don't know why. Like, I don't know why my brain works this way. I can look at any pattern and I can figure it out in about 10 seconds, maybe a minute and a half at the most. but it's just, I can just see it. And I think, but really, like, a lot of that comes from making mistakes, but not only making mistakes, but learning from those mistakes, right? It's so crucial.
Yeah.
And that has really informed me and educated me in a big way. A friend of mine used to call it knife maker tuition. Whenever he'd make a mistake or fuck something up,
Yeah.
and like, he just
Yeah.
chalk it up to knife maker tuition. He was like, "You better learn your mistake because it's going to be expensive if you have to do that again and again and again." And that's really like, that's also goes, yeah, like, it speaks to life too. Like, realistically, like, the same challenges keep getting put in front of us over and over again until we learn those lessons, right? And it's the same thing with this craft
Absolutely.
and it's this work. And so it's being, trying to be thoughtful and be in a position and willing and open to learn. Because if you box yourself in and try to, like, protect yourself and armor yourself, you're limiting your growth, you know.
Yeah.
And
It's one of the things I learned from Steve when he was out here.
mm,
Is we were sitting in my shop. He said to me, Henning, I've heard that you do your grinding in a different. I was like, what do you mean a different way? Because I only grind my hand. I've got no jigs. I've got false edges, but that's just because I can't line that little false edge up every time. I just like,
sure,
okay, I'll do that with a jig.
yeah,
And immediately, oh, I don't know that I do it differently, but I'll show you. And I said to him, well, let me show you. And I showed him, and he came out of the grinding room. He just ground up this little problem, and he looked at me and he said, you know what? I'm going to grind like you from now on. I was like, holy shit. This is the longest serving master smith in that. He's going to grind the way I do. And I said that to him. I said to him, remember one thing, that even the newest knife maker craft, even guys that aren't knife makers can look at your stuff and go, well, if you do it. So I've literally come to the point where I don't dismiss anybody. I'll stand there and I'll take notes. I'll write it down if the guy starts talking to me. The moment, that's why, and this is probably not the best thing to do when you guess. in a couple of months. But I used to, I master smith. I don't like it at all because it implies that a master everything is done. It's like there's nothing left for this guy to learn.
No,
I don't like that because you'll never master this. It's just too big.
right.
Every time, oh, now I can do stonework. Oh, there. Well, now you should have a look at this. This is like nothing's in there. And the next thing is like, oh, and then you speak to John Horrigan and he goes, yeah, I put a bit of gold. Excuse me? He says, yeah, I did gold inlay inside the stone. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So you'll never ever be a master in this game. If you think you are, the moment you think that you're good in this game, your game will fall. Grinding screech, and you won't grow. You won't learn. I mean, there's always someone out there that's going to teach you something. If you think that you're good, if you think that you've reached anything in it, you need to stay humble. You need to keep on looking at what other guys are doing and be willing to take criticism on your work from anybody.
Right.
I don't care who the guy is.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a guy come over, 11 years old, the other day, and I've got a bunch of art knives that I keep for myself, and this kid looked at my knife and he went, well, you know what? It doesn't really suit the theme of the rest of the knife because it's a Persian knife. So I was like, okay. Who the? And I was like, yeah, you're right. This kid's 100. That pommel doesn't fit on that knife. I've got to figure out a new way to do that pommel.
Yeah.
And I said to him, where do you Prince of Persia on PlayStation? And none of the knives on there looks like yours. And I was like, well, here you go. 11-year-old kid that's never touched a knife, and he's walked me out of, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to figure out. And
sure.
If you can learn from kids like that, and you can take every piece as a positive, the ups and downs, the valleys become so much shallower. I don't know if you saw that post of mine that I got, it was about December month, and I got everything done on it, and I hardened the blade and a crack in it. And I made that joke about posting more of my crack on. Not that type of crack, you assholes. This type of crack. If you can be positive about your mistakes, the valley, you just glide over them. They don't even bother you.
Yeah.
I mean, I found that crack, and years ago I would be like, okay, how do I work around that crack? Can I make it longer? Can I do this? Can I do that? And then a couple of years ago, I had the same thing happen. I don't even remember I did that main gash, that left-handed dagger with the carved guard. Yeah, that one.
This one on the screen.
I did that piece, and I I etched the blade, and it wouldn't etch. And I was like, I'm right there. I'm done with the thing. I just need to etch it together, and I'm finished. And that evening, I'm lying in bed, and everything comes back to faith for me. And I said, God, why wouldn't that thing etching right? I tempered it. I did everything. And as loud as he can, he said in my head, you just need to make it better. And I took it, and the next morning I was steel that came out better. I cut a perfect fuller down that thing that was better than the one before. Ricasso sort of looked like it's going over the blade. And when I assembled the two blades, I took the one and I assembled it, and I looked at it, the other one. I was like, okay, that's why it happened. It needs to be better. Whenever I made a mistake, whenever I screwed up something, I was like, okay, this isn't a screw up. This, number one, I've learned, and number two, now I can make it better. It's all about it, how you think about stuff. It's all about how you hit. It's like, okay, I've screwed up now. What am I going to do? I'm going to sit here and cry about it for the next. Going to say, okay, it's screwed up. I mean, that last one, I looked at the crack like that. I found it. I looked at it on a light on. I looked at it. I threw it down, and I walked right out the door. I started cutting up material, stacking up material, and by the next afternoon, I had a new blade ground and to get put together. Because if you put the energy into, no, I screwed it up for 2 days, and then you got that energy going, you're not gonna take that same energy, and it comes up better every time.
That's something I definitely need to work on, because I find myself agonizing, and I think I struggle with that because I struggle with perfectionism, and I'm like, all of a sudden, like, I made a mistake, and now I'm the biggest fuck up ever, and how am I gonna move forward? And I've been trying to learn how to just like take it a little easier on myself, because like to think that you can get through this craft, or honestly most anything in life, without ever making a mistake is foolish. There are always going to be mistakes made, always. It's just being in the better place to roll with it and learn from it and move forward, so that either you don't make those mistakes in the future, or you know how to fix them if they happen again. It's less of an issue. Like, if it happens, then it happens, whatever.
I mean, I've learned so screwed up, because if you look at it as a screw up and you're okay, and you don't let it drag you down. Go, okay, I've screwed up. Now, why did that happen? How did I screw that up? What happened? And the next time you do it, it's like, and then you do exactly the same thing again, and then you screw up, and it's like, okay, why did that happen? And then the next time you do it, it's like 90%. It's like when I did the first keel, it took me a week to fit that damn knife. I sit down
and $600 worth of hand materials.
Yeah. And back then it was like, okay, I can do a keel, but only in this material. And then 4 months later, I was like, I'm going to do it in ivory. And I did it. And then the very next step was like, okay, I was able to do it in ivory. I wonder if I could do it I'm going to do one in mammoth mode. And then I did one in mammoth mode. And now I can do a handle in a morning. I can sit down and get it done. And but the thing is that this is another thing. It's like guys that are certain things in the right way, because it's like when you fit a guard, okay, stupid thing, pet peeve, it pisses me off to no end, is when the guys take a file guide to it and they bang all the way around the guide, or all the way around the blade,
around the tang. Yeah.
And now you've got a perfect fit. It looks really, really nice. But now you design a knife that doesn't have a flat. Now you literally got to fit that thing going in there, and you can't, because you've been doing that for the last 5 years. You've been and getting it to fit. And yeah, it's not the easiest, harder route, but if you take the harder route and you figure out how to do it and you get it really, really, it becomes easy. It's like doing some of the weird fit ups that I do. Why did you do this? Why did you design this thing this way? But then when you're done with it, that's something. That's something that
Yeah.
will stay around long after I'm gone. People are going to look at this and go, yeah, that must have taken a bit of hard work. If you do that hard work, it becomes easier and easier and hard. I mean, I remember doing my
that's how
first.
integrals work for me.
Yeah.
When I first started integrals, I was like, "Oh god, this is such a pain in the ass." And it got to the point where it was so easy that when I went back to doing full tang, I was like, "Ugh, this sucks." It's actually easier for me to do an integral now than to do a full tang knife with guard, with a like not like bronze guard, or but sorry, not guard, but bolster and stuff like that. I'm like, "Oh, this stupid crap." I'm good at grinding, so like I'd rather just sculpt it.
Yeah. Like, and because you did the hard thing and you took the hard stuff, became easier, and now you are a better maker for it, and you can even look at. I mean, I firmly believe if you find you and he's guiding you to drive your guards on with a hammer from the back, go and find someone else. Go and find somebody that'll show you the finer ways of doing it, because it's tough. Once you've figured out the little rules and stuff around it, then it becomes really easy. You can do whatever you want. That's what this whole thing is about for me, is drawing, making what I've drawn. If I've designed this weird guard, being able to, because the tougher it gets when I pulled it off. But I've said that before. But I mean, that I love the thing of doing stuff that people that
Yeah.
That's because that just makes it. The next time that I do it, I'll go, that's easy. I can do that. I can take that on. I can. Yeah, it's like,
there's so much to that approach, to your approach of guard making, guard fitting, and knife making that I'm so unfamiliar with. I definitely want to come down. I would love to come down and work with you, and we can
oh
play
man, you're welcome
Damascus.
anytime.
We can do some
That would be
handles fit ups and
amazing. That
everything.
would put me in heaven. Really nice. It was like when I went out to work with Steve last year. Man, that was amazing. You're able to work with the guy that inspired you to. Well, no, sorry, that came out stupid. Like no, inspired me to do what I do. It was a real. Having him as a friend is really, and he's done this 1,000 times. That man, in every way, he's like my second father. I often phone him. This isn't knife related, so shut up and listen, and he'll come back with a good answer, and I'll go, okay.
Yeah, no, he's a good man. I'm looking for. I think I'm going to be working with him in April. But yeah, I want to get down there. I would love to come down there.
Stuff together. It would be awesome. It would be really, really awesome, because I get on the blower now and I say, listen, guys, Mareko's coming down and he's going to be. You would have enough money to see South Africa. Really, really do that. You would probably be working harder here than you would be in Nigeria. That's for sure.
No, but that's the funny part. Like teaching and traveling and demonstrating, that's easier for me than just making my own knives. I mean, sometimes doing my own knives is just fine and smooth, but when I'm doing the work for fun rather than because I'm trying to pay my bills, it's so much more enjoyable to do. And obviously, like, teaching, you get paid to teach and stuff, but at the same time, like, it's the stuff that I already do through like social media, but it's in person. right? Or through my Patreon
Makes
here, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, what I've done is worry about bills. This whole the way I view the bills is just like either I want to have some fun, and I
Mhm.
have some fun, and at the end of it, and yeah, I know the feeling that it's like, oh shit, it's crunch time, bills. I'm like, you know what? If they switch my power off, I'll go without it for a week and carve this handle until it's done. And yeah, it just makes it easy. Probably not the best way to look at it, but that's the way I do it. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't care. You send me a bill, I'm gonna get paid when I'm paid. That's it.
Right. I feel you.
So,
What
yeah,
are do you have some projects coming up that you're really excited about? You're that because I saw that you did what was it? The Unnamed Society knife, which was a sick piece. You did a
yeah,
really great job on that. And that's that the handle scales, how you had those got those fit up. I mean, I know how you did it, but that is a really unusual and challenging fit up. I don't have the skills to do that. And I think that's where your machinist skills come in creating those wild fit ups. Here's another one that's somewhat similar. Where basically it's like a flip tang, but it's a sub hilt and the handle scales wrap around from the front and the back, and it also has a bottom pommel, and it's just nuts. I remember the first time I saw this thing, I was just like, "What the fuck?" But then you gave a hint on how you did it on your Instagram. I was like, "Oh, I got it now." But still, holy shit, that's a lot of work.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, if when it's shaped, when it's rounded, it, it's a lot of work. It's like, but if that and you fitting flat to flat, I'm it gets a lot of. But then when you round it out and you round the handle, guys always go, "You fit that going around there." I didn't. I just fitted it flat, made sure that it fitted when I shaped the handle.
Yeah.
So when it's flat, it makes it a lot easier. Knife and the Unnamed Society knife, that's actually scales and form over the actual tang, because that
Right.
line that goes through it, basically a full tang. If you think about that, it's machined out with the band of full tang, and then I machined the full tang down, and then
Kind of like
made the handle sort of. Yeah, that's another knife. That was it's another sawbuilt
what?
but that was an integral sawbuilt. Um, yeah, that one I made during COVID.
Okay.
It was a knife that I wanted to make for a very, very long time. Mine's collection. So yeah, I want to do. I want to see if I can do something like that for. I want to do another left-handed dagger. I love making them. It was like it was the first knife that I really, really just said anything. I want to put everything I can into it. I want to carve the, have an ounce of gold in it. I want an ounce of gold in it, and
Right.
it was the best thing I've ever attempted to make. So I want to do it maybe, and then like I said, I'm busy doing my JS knives, and a lot of the guys are giving me a bit of like, dude, you can't do that for your JS, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that type of knife for my JS. I'm gonna make them be really special because I believe my job is to keep on stuff that, and if I don't pass, so be it. But I'm gonna make 5 knives just to get my JS stamp. I'm not gonna do that. I'll make 5 knives and I'll have some crazy fit ups and I'll have everything I do well. I'll have in there except my Damascus, which I work working with handle like stainless, dude, it's not fun. It really isn't fun for me. This
Right.
stuff, this would be so much better if it was pattern welded. You know what?
Sure.
But anyway, that's not. So yeah, I'll be testing for Jay, so that's gonna be good. And then it's like you, I've got a couple of patterns in my head that I want to get made and get put down. And yeah, there's a keeps me awake at night that I want to that I want to get done.
Right.
So yeah.
Is Carl Smith still alive?
Yeah, he's my son's primary school, where my son and my daughter used to go. He's a really, really, really cool guy. Dude, that guy was like, he's got for knife making. I remember making a knife. I designed this thing. I took it to, dude, when this thing's done, you gotta phone me. Says, don't wait, phone me immediately. I finished at like 2 a.m. And I was like, Carl said I should phone him. And I took my phone, like, yeah, bring it over. I want to see it. He was like, hello, yeah, okay. Just bring it over. I want to see it in the morning, in the middle of the work week. And he's got his wife up making us some tea. And he's like, yeah, this is nice. I like this. So he was a big part. He was like, okay, yeah, this guy's really, really, really into what I'm doing. And always be honest. He would be like, no, this doesn't work. Yeah, that'll work. And yeah, I've said to him 1,000 times, get an Instagram, just put the front cover on there. Sure. And that you sell more of those books that you can print. And he's just like, no, it's okay. But they, yeah, he's a good guy. He's still alive.
Yeah, I need to get some of those, or maybe I'll talk to because they're not available in the U.S. I think the only time I've ever seen that book was I was at Bill Burke's house. Oh my God, I'm trying to think when, 2014 or 15 or something like that, and Mike Quisenberry was there, and he had one of those books from Carl Smith, and I can't remember where he got it from somebody else or found it randomly, or no, I'm sorry, he ordered it offline. He found it online and he ordered it offline, and then he had to wait like a month or two to ship it, and or just to get it there, and so for him it was a very precious book. And so we were all, it was like me and Bill Burke and Mike Quisenberry and Shane Taylor and Eric Fritz and David Lish, and we're just all like hovering, looking over the book or taking turns looking at the book. I really liked it. And I think the things or the patterns that really helped me to kind of wrap my head around better were twist patterns. Because up to that point in 2014 or 15, whichever it was, I could reverse engineer basically any mosaic pattern and a lot of other simple patterns and ladder patterns and stuff like that. But the twists still confused me. And so that book was the start of my understanding. And then when I was at Dragon's Breath Forge, where those guys do a lot of twist patterns, it finally started to click. And just seeing more twist patterns in general, and seeing what they started as, and then seeing how they reveal in the blade, I'm like, oh, I see how the pattern transfers through the activity of the twisting, which is a trick. But yeah, that would be a really great book to have as a reference. I've talked about the idea of putting together a book, but problem is I'm not a writer. I'm not a primary school teacher. Sometimes I don't even know if I'm a very good teacher in general. But I do think I have a lot of stuff to share that I think would be very helpful and useful to people.
All the explanations that I've watched of you doing patterns are really easy to understand, because the detail is don't leave a step out. It's like, this is perfect. So, like, I remember go on YouTube and the guy's like, oh, this is how you do it. And you watch the whole video and you do exactly what he does. He skipped the part. And you go and you figure it out in the end and he's like, you skip the huge fucker. But your stuff is, if you do it the same way that you did, dude, I think everybody and their brother would buy on
Sure.
battening. Really, I would. I'd be, when Carl did that book, he was doing the book and he was showing me as he was doing it. And I'm getting my books on Friday. I was like, okay, I'll see you Friday. Actually sitting at his house. There was nobody there. I was waiting on my own at his house. And he pulled in I want my book. Give me my book. And I bought the first copy. And by my dog, it's been, it caught fire once or twice, falling on it. And I've used that thing 1,000 times. Okay, that's what you missed. That's what you need to do, because it's so plain. It really is a good book. But what I'll do is I'll get you one. And I'll bring it out to Blade to you as a present, because I get a Christmas card from you every year in
in August. Yeah.
Our postal system.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
You got to make sure Carl signs it, though. I would love for him to sign it.
I'll for you.
Thank you.
I'll do that. I'll make sure that he does sign it. Yeah, I'll bring. So yeah, do your book, dude. I'll be the first one. You're gonna have to beat me with a stick not to, but I'll definitely take. I'll take a couple. If it gets lost in the post.
Maybe we'll have to do it. I'll try to time the publishing so that I can hand it off at Blade Show or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be good. You need to get on that book. That'll be good for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, there's space. You gotta get your ass over here, and we gotta work together. When I come out of Blade Show one year, maybe go home with you and go and ruin your shop for like. Go and see if you can make it.
I like working at other people's shops. I'm good on other people's tools, and I like when I'm teaching people and showing people stuff. I like to show them in their own shops with the tools that they have available to them, because it's not very useful to a person if they come to my shop and use my tools and my specific setup, but then they go back to their shop and they don't have all that same stuff. I'd rather go to somebody else's shop and work with them at their shop. So, and if we can organize a class, then that would help, offset the cost of travel and everything coming down there. A class or two or something. I don't know. It'd be fun.
Yeah, it's exactly what we did with he did a canister Damascus class, and that 1 day course he had. Well, no, sorry, it was a 2 day course. Money that he didn't pay for anything over here. He stayed with me. We took him everywhere, and everything he bought was bought with that money. And in time, geez, I can't remember laughing that hard. I was at Guild Show and I couldn't off voice from laughing. It was brilliant. So what it is, you can come out and maybe do a show. Do a show while afterwards, and then we'll ship you all over the country, and you can. I'm pretty sure you can bring the wife and kid along.
Yeah,
or the kids along, and then Africa, because South Africa is an amazing place. It's really it's a tough place. Really, it's a beautiful country.
Sure, my wife has been there once before. But yeah, it would be fun to take the family.
Yeah, he told me about that. Yeah, it's a welcome. I would love having you, because I've got a lot of questions that then you can't tell me I can't tell you. It's like, you're not going to get on the plane.
Yeah. I do have another question for you. I'm curious, how do you feel, and you've probably touched on it a little bit earlier, but how do you feel like your machining background helps you accomplish unusual or different fit ups that really help you to set your work apart? Do you feel like your machining skill helps you to set your work apart because you can use it in ways that non-machinists can't, basically, to do unique and unusual things?
Yeah, I definitely do think that my machining helps me a lot. Um, my brain works in a way where I see the machining. I can see how I want to do it, and that's so. My dad is he's a great tool and die maker that's got a very practical approach to machining. A lot of guys these days, when you speak to guys, they'll go, or get it cut with a wire cutter, you can get that radius by doing this, or you can machine a circle by. He grew up with, or when he was doing his apprenticeship, he was under guys that created stuff that we can create now only with like, and these guys were doing it. I mean, my dad was one of the first guys that did a pen, or he knew the guy that did the first Coca-Cola bottle molds.
Okay.
On a pantograph, and he
Oh,
saw
wow.
him working on it. I speak to him. The machine's doing this when I'm doing that, and he goes, "Yeah, put a bag of sand on top of it." I'm like, "Okay," and then you put a bag of sand on it, and then all of a sudden everything goes away and everything's easy. So it really helps a lot with it. But I'm also, I think that I'm very, very patient when it comes to my work. I don't care a lot of time on doing a pattern, or this thing was to learn how to slow down and not make getting it done, but more about getting it done correctly, getting it done to the. It's a very tough thing if you want to make money out of it.
For sure.
But the thing is, you can get it done real quick, dollars for it, but get it done and get it done spectacularly, and then you can get $5,000 for it. It's like forging a piece of material. If you move the direction, you've literally lost what you wanted. Right.
Yeah.
Like I said to you, when I saw Steve's work the first time, that happened. That thing of Damascus course, I've got this thing where I say to the guys, your mantra is slow your roll and count your blows. And by slow down, forge a little bit less at a time, and make sure that you count your blows, forging this thing exactly the same on all four sides, or whatever the pattern might be.
Yeah.
I think those two things combined, the machining part about it, the patient, the being able to get what I want, that's what's really setting my work. And then also, what I did was, in the weld trade, I would still want to make knives. So I remember the one day I was walking into a shop that sells books, and I found, I think, annual, I think it was 1995 or something, and old.
Okay.
And I'd always have a sketch pad in my kit pads and pencils and some oval stencils and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was by. I can remember it. He was Mike Quisenbury's teacher.
Tim
It was a
Hancock.
big bow. He used to. Yeah, Tim Hancock, and it was just like, why is this knife that Tim Hancock made so much more spectacular than the? And I was obsessed by this knife, and I started drawing it.
Mm-hmm.
I literally got this weird feeling about I've got to get this drawing exactly. It would pay a dishonor to the knife if I didn't get it right. And clip line that I drew in, and the clip just wouldn't. And then eventually I got it right, and I was like, oh, that's what he's doing this, and you could pick up the proportion on the blade, and everything just came together. I realized, wait, hold on, I'm onto something here. And I found the next nice knife thing, and I drew it exactly the way that it was in the picture. Mm-hmm. And then I did 3 years, 4 years, just sitting there and drawing and finding out why it speaks to me and what is it saying.
Yeah.
And you pick up so much when you study those designs like that. It's like, why does he use this handle material here? And why does he put a little liner in there? And why file work on this knife?
Right.
And that made a big difference. That knife made. Because I was always I was making other people saying, okay, I like that, but I'm just gonna tweak it a little bit, and then I'm gonna call it mine. So doing that can and that's something that anybody can do. You got to draw it so that it looks exactly like the picture that you're looking at.
Right.
And it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard anybody say that, but I think that does make really good sense to me. And I think that is something that honestly I really enjoy about your work is I really like the proportions and the lines and the flow of the lines and everything. Like even this handle we were just showing a second ago. The way the line, it could curve in a lot of different ways, but the way that you did make the kind of where it comes down from the sub hilt down to the pommel, that part of the steel that's exposed to the handle, it's so nice and it flows so naturally. And yeah, I really love that, but it makes a lot of sense. And that's what you do. And I can see it, I see it in your work that you're very thoughtful. This is a dagger of yours, where you've done a lot of, what do you even call that? Is it engraving down at the bottom, at the pommel and up at the guard, or is that a different technique? What's that called?
That's it's sort of deeply relief. I file it and I work it with the GRS engraver, and I've got like rifler files that I use on it.
Sure.
It's just you draw the lines, and then you after a while you sort of get an idea in your look like in 3D, and then as it grows, you sort of I this here and a little bit more of that there. But once again, it's one of those things that when I started doing it was a scary thing, because I've just put in now I might be screwing it up, or it might be better.
Right. Yeah.
Out of 10, it turns out better, because you just. But the thing is, you got to be. That was a nightmare, because I and carved it with little burrs and GRS engraver and with files and all sorts of stuff. And halfway through, he said to me, what size hammers are you using? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not using a hammer on that at all. And he says, no. You he used these little hammer punches on. What are you talking about, John? And I call him Fat Boy and Fat Bastard, but anyway. So I was like, Fat Boy, what are you talking about? Fauna's got this website and he's got bunches of videos on there, and you can. And I was lit with that thing. And I remember I'm working Sunday morning for like 4 hours, and my back was killing me, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And I go into the living room, and I get on the computer, and I find Samuel. I've got to pay for this video, and I pay for it, and I start watching it, and I go, John, you should have told me about this like 2 years ago. And it's literally hammer points to move the material where you want to. And Sam explains it so that the next carvings that I did and the next work that I did, it's just easier. So
sure,
go and do yourself a favor. I think it's I don't know, $50 for the video. It's worth every cent. I watch that thing 100 times over because it makes it so much easier. But
who is it again?
The thing about doing stuff like Samuel Fauna. I can't remember the website.
Okay.
Look at he's got there's a whole bunch of videos that you pay for them online. The thing behind what I see about that type of work is the design work that goes in, and like with that saw build, I think I had about a month. I literally sat with my iPad every night when I was finishing. The wife and the kids would be watching television, and I'd be drawing. I'd be sitting there drawing. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to make it the way it is. I made it, and it was like, yeah, I like it. I started filing it and started shaping it. And then I was like, okay, I like this. This is the way it sat in the way it felt when you held it, and the way that little line would just about it was just okay. But the thing is, don't be afraid to spend time, afraid to sit there and literally go, okay, I need to spend some really serious time. It makes a huge difference to what you're making.
Right.
If it was a knife, then we'd all be making the same knife. But you've got to, and if you don't know how to design, learn how to design it. Do it on paper. Don't, because everybody's making knives, and then they get on their iPads and oh, thanks, honey. My wife still loves me. Maybe.
That's sweet.
You've got to, if you want to, you've got to learn how to design. A couple of years, I told him, I gave him the tip to go and design a knife, or to find a knife that is until you get it right. And then what he did is he went and made it. And Veronique found out that he had copied one of her knives, and it was a thing in South Africa and internationally, because Veronique was and because I knew her sort of, I reached out to her and I said to Veronique, I really do. I knew, because you put so much effort into the design, and then it's mine, or doesn't give credit. But that wasn't it. He wanted to create one of her knives to see if it could, and then he just, in his stupidity, posted it online without saying, this is a very line that I just made to see if I can. And that was the mistake that he made. But the thing is, if you look at a reaction, you understand the amount of effort that was appropriate. action. And
Sure. Yeah.
I can't emphasize this enough. If you don't design the thing until it's perfect, it's not
Right.
going to happen.
Yeah.
Like guys come here and, okay, what do you want to make? I want to make a hunting knife. I go, okay, let's go and sit down and draw it. And I'll draw it and it's nice. And I go, there's something that you don't like about it. No, I really like it. I said, no, I can see about it. Yeah, I'd like it if it was that and that. And then you draw it again and then I go, okay. And then we go, okay, let's start making this. And then when it's done, the guys that we took the time to go and design this thing to the point that it was perfect. Okay, there we go. Biggest lesson of them all. Design it until it's perfect, and then go and make it. And then you're going to end up with something special.
Yeah. I really like that. Earlier you mentioned, and you kind of finished just now with kind of some of the same philosophy, but the taking the time to do it right, and that you've slowed down a lot. And I honestly have found myself slowing down a lot more as I get more experience in knife making and blade finishing. Um and I have friends, and I'm sure you have friends or see people who put a lot of hard work and effort in for up to about like maybe the 75%, 80% mark. And then they just rush through the end of it just to finish it. And I'm like, you already put like
Yeah,
all this work and effort into it. Why would you just rush through it just to get it done? And and you might be able to get more for it, you might not, but I think for me, it's kind of like I have to I'm not learning anything personally. I'm not gaining anything personally, growth wise, by just racing through the end of it. And
yeah,
every knife is kind of a lesson for me in the craft of knife making. And part of me, I actually, once I hit that 75%, 80% mark, I actually slowed down
yeah,
even more to make sure that the final touches are just right so that I feel proud and confident about what I'm putting out there into the world. Because, what happens if I die the next day? And that's the last thing I put out, was just some raced through the end piece of shit. I was like, these are a part of me, no matter what you want. Like, they're not my flesh and blood, but it's my soul and my mind, and my energy and time has been poured, and my thoughts have been poured into creating this thing. I want to slow down to make it the best it can be,
yeah.
before sending it out the door. Obviously, you got to draw the line
And I just want
somewhere.
to be
Otherwise, we'll never finish a knife. But racing through the end of it
yeah, it's
never
your
made
legacy.
sense to me.
That's the thing.
Yeah, legacy. Yeah,
It's about leaving something behind that's worth more than if it's the last piece that you've made. Does it sum up your life? Is it like, did he really take the last little bit of effort to make this? And yeah, I think, look, it's such an amazing experience for me because I've learned so much about myself and about
sure.
seeing life for what it is. And it can be a tough life, or it can be what I've made of it and said, listen, I made it something really special for me and for everybody that a piece from me or buys a piece from me. I love it when guys buy my stuff and go, Henning, thank you very much. It's an amazing feeling. And to think that you've made something that's going to stand than your kids may, or I mean, we're all gonna die. So that's the thing. You don't know when it's going to be, and it's like you said. If that's the last piece that I made, that I rushed through it, and yeah, the guys. If you learn one thing, is really well, because everybody looks at that. Everybody looks at your fits, and yeah, this works. Or
Yeah.
he's He's just trying to get it done. It's easy when a guy's just trying to get it done.
Sure.
Using electricity in the next couple of minutes, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just noticing the time too.
I've set up a light and everything, so if you want to try and carry on, we can try and if you want to handle it. I don't mind. Just want
No. I think
heads up.
yeah, no, I think we did a good job. I think we had a great conversation. I think your wife also just brought your dinner into you. Or a glass of
It's a
whiskey.
cup of tea. I eat
Oh,
a little bit
tea.
more than a cup of tea, I promise.
No, I really appreciate your insight and to get a better understanding of your background and your story. It really means a lot to me. It's always been really important. I don't know why, but it's just always been something I've been really intrigued um, about when it comes to just people in general, especially people I feel a strong connection with. You know, you and I don't really know each other that well, but I do feel like we're very good friends, and I could talk to you about
Yeah.
anything really. And so it's important to me to kind of gather these stories for myself, but also, you know, I think it's important for there to be some sort of record too of who these makers are, where they come from, what their story is, how they got there, where they want to go, their hopes and dreams for the future and lessons learned and all that kind of stuff. So that future generations, future people entering the craft
If it makes,
can take something from it, hopefully.
I think what you're doing is really important because if you if my story can make it easier of makers, or just a guy that's now anybody that's listening to it, or a guy that's just started going full time and he doesn't know how to break out, and he did what you said or to what anybody else has said. I think it's stuff out there because when I started making, there was nothing like that. I had Coral, which I'm teaching an immense amount, and but there's not a lot of guys that have. And I think what you're doing with these podcasts is you getting a lot of information together and making it freely available to a bunch of guys that want to be makers. And doing this, the more it's going to grow. It's like Steve says, back it's going to be 10 times bigger than when you shared it. And this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the chance to share my story on this. I mean, you've done a really good job of it, and it's grown. It's been a big thing. And hopefully, even if it just helps out one guy, I'm happy.
Absolutely. I feel the same.
I really appreciate it.
No, and
I feel
I'm very thankful for,
and thank you for sharing all your work, dude. It made a huge difference when I had to make patterns that I've never seen in my life. And I was like, okay, if Mareko can do the shit, I can do a little tile job.
Yeah.
A piece of pattern welded steel.
You can. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, my friend.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody. Especially everybody over on the Patreon who helped to make this podcast a reality, especially the super sponsors and everybody at the illuminated individual level and higher. When you pledge at that level, you get to be part of the conversation, ask questions, and you know, catch these live streams live and all the good stuff, as well as the Discord and everything else on the Patreon. I appreciate everybody's support. And I thank you and I bid you adieu. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.